Good evening, my name is Jameel Hasan, and tonight we will be talking about Muammar Gaddafi. Was he good or bad for Libya? That's my audience, my wife, she's with the camera, that's her hand, my 2 children, 3 children if you count my daughter. Tonight, let's get into Muammar Gaddafi. Was he good or bad for Libya? My specific purpose will be to provide you with enough information besides the narrative provided by our media about Muammar Gaddafi and Libya before the NATO invasion and after. In 1951, Libya was the poorest country in the world, pre-Gaddafi. Fast forward to 2010, before Gaddafi was taken out by rebel forces. Libya had the highest standard of living in Africa and rivaled those of Russia, Brazil, and Egypt. Libya under Gaddafi wasn't a perfect state, by no means, but it was much better off compared to its current state. I care about this topic because it is so pertinent to American foreign policy, our national interest, and me as a human, and the human family. Libya was a growing economy before NATO's intervention and subsequent invasion of the country. Though Gaddafi wasn't the best rulers of the rulers in the Middle East, Libyans were afforded a better life than most Africans on the continent. They were provided with free housing, a promise that Gaddafi made when he came into power that he would house every Libyan before he housed his mother and father, and which his father died before that promise was fulfilled. Libyans were provided free education, K through college, post-secondary, and onward, with a literacy rate of over 84%. Libyans were also provided with free health care, completely free of all costs. And if a Libyan had to, per se, get a surgery in a foreign country, the government provided subsidies to offset the cost for its citizens. The profits made from the country's oil revenues were deposited into a people's bank so everyone could profit from the country's vast national resources. I believe NATO needs to turn the country of Libya's resources over to the Libyan people instead of international companies coming in and hegemonic powers making a grab for Libya's resources and forgetting about the Libyan people. NATO also needs to provide the Libyan people with support to rebuild its nation, to rebuild its social, economical, and political apparatuses, and to provide the people with the standard of living that they are used to. I believe, and strongly believe, Libya was better off with Gaddafi. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Daesh are now operating in the country and operating with impunity. I will show you a picture of a victim that died during an Al-Qaeda attack in the country. There is a victim of an Al-Qaeda attack in the country, with Libyan citizens suffering the brunt of post-Libya without Gaddafi. Gaddafi's choice of government was the Yahamaniya. It was not perfect, but it allowed for its people to live by the party's slogan, power, wealth, and weapons in the hands of the people. I believe if NATO allows the Libyan people to continue with Gaddafi's blueprint, the Libyan people may have a chance of achieving pure democracy. NATO should not decide how Libya should rebuild its nation, whether physically or politically. It is a sovereign nation. But International capital is not going to stand by idly while trillions of dollars in oil profits, trillions, pass to a small, radicalized population practicing anarchist-style democracy in the desert. In fact, on January 4, 2011, just weeks before the conflict in Libya started, UN members praised Libya's continued welfare provision and commitment to upholding human rights, in which Gaddafi made a speech at the event. I will show you a chart and graph of of the UN's perception of Libyan living. As you can see, directly Libya centered, highest standard of living on the continent of Africa. As you can see, other countries in the region, where we have Zimbabwe, they don't even have, the UN can't even make a prognosis because there is nothing there. There's no apparatuses. As you can see, all the other African countries, most of them all have low standards of living. You have a couple, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, but for the most part, Libya was a shining light in Africa instead of the crazed monarch that the media presented us. I believe, in the end, if Libya is allowed to build on what Gaddafi started, continue to grow its economy through its vast oil resources, and also the resources of gold that Gaddafi left behind, over 144 trillion ounces of gold, the Libyan people do have the tools to rebuild their country and continue on their path to making it a shining light in the developing world. In conclusion, Libya was modernized, educated, and its citizens were provided with free health care, as I said. It was once the poorest country on earth, but through Gaddafi's leadership through sanctions imposed by the UN, he still was able to provide his citizens with a standard of living that was dramatically better than those in Africa, as I showed you. NATO's intervention has caused the country to descend into chaos, and its people are suffering. If Libyans are allowed to continue this path, as I said, they will improve their country. It is a sovereign nation and should not be forced into change through outside powers. Her people should decide their own fates. Look at Syria. Look at Iraq. If Western powers continue these policies in the region, we will leave utter chaos and destruction in our wake. We must embark on a different path to bring about stability for a safer and prosperous world. I thank you all. Good night. Jameel.